Hey there everybody, it's Craw, and I'm back with another Terraria playthrough. This time, we have a pretty tough one, spellbooks only. Now, you might be thinking, how is she gonna get any of the spellbooks in pre-hard mode? Well, let's just say, I have a little trick up my sleeve. Hey, don't look at that. Look at me. If we're gonna beat this challenge, we're gonna have to beat it drunk world. We have to beat it in the drunk world, that's what I'm getting at. So let's get right into it. But first, did you know that only 15% of you are subscribed? Come on now, go hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and share this content around with your friends. That's all we got. Let's go. First thing we do in this world, as always, is go exploring for some early upgrades. We find some living wood trees to the left of the world, which gives us a boomerang. We can't explore deeper right now, so we move on, finding a spear in this chest and some torches. And with those, we can go grab the rest of the chest, supplying us with a step stool, living wood wands, a life crystal, a diamond gem tree, a wand of sparking, a plant fiber guide, another boomerang, and a small cave at the bottom of this tree, giving us another life crystal, a life crystal, another life crystal, a fourth life crystal, and finally a fifth life crystal. Oh, and a big vein of silver. Back home, I'm trying to make a big box to stop dying, which ends in me dying, but I quickly rope my way into the sky and build a small hut to craft some upgrades with a sapphire hook, some bars, a silver pickaxe, axe, and a helmet. Then while we're stuck up here, I go ahead and start making a base for the playthrough using the lovely living wood wands to make them look just a little bit nicer. And we make 10 houses and a small crafting and storage area, and with our inventory now cleared out, I head down to the caves and plant some of those diamond gem corns for a future robe. I find a third boomerang from another living wood tree, but down at the bottom is actually an underground house which gives us some Hermes boots. While climbing this mountain of sand, it leads up into a low sky island which I try and get to now, but the harpies and eyes drive me away before I can get up there. We escape to the brown living wood tree that houses the dungeon on the drunk seat, and I head down and my mission has been activated. I prepare carefully and dive in, keeping my eyes peeled for an early water bolt. I do manage to spot one on this shelf down here and quickly jump towards it, landing on a pressure plate, which activates a dart trap and takes us out for our first unsuccessful attempt. Wasting absolutely no time, I head back over, and this time a dungeon slime jump scares me into heading right into some spikes. Cool. Third attempt, however, I'm headstrong and run straight towards it with no interruptions, finally acquiring a pre-boss water bolt and escaping before the guardian can take us out. With our weapon acquired, we just have to focus on other upgrades, so I go down and harvest my gem trees. Then I go to explore the snow biome, finding an ice chest that gives us a snowball cannon. Great. I run out of mana fighting these slimes and end up running straight into an explosive trap. Man. Back home, I craft some extra gem corns to speed up our farming process, and I jump off the house to my death. I am very skilled at gaming. I finally go look at this sky island, and unfortunately, it just gives us the Star Fury. Then I head over to the jungle for some upgrades, grabbing materials and a life crystal before getting poisoned and teleporting home so that I can at least die where I'm comfortable. And it's about that time, so I start blowing up the ground to start my elevator, and I end up finding a trap chest where I quickly get rid of all the explosives, and I forgot one. Over in the snow biome, I find a nymph and grab our metal detector, quickly followed by another life crystal and a chest with an extractinator. While slime is falling from the sky, I start clearing out a large flat area so that I can start working on my arena in the night and make sure it looks nice and pretty afterwards with our wands. I go down and harvest the last gem tree I need and quickly go make myself a diamond robe, a really great upgrade for this stage in the game. Continuing my elevator, I notice a lone ice chest and actually supplies us with a blizzard in a bottle. Awesome. We finally make it down to the underworld, and I head over to the jungle again to get some last materials, finding a bazaar and the last life crystal we need for max HP. Back at the base, I make another upgrade with the jungle hat, and when night hits, I'm ready to take on our first boss. I summon the Eye of Cthulhu and start firing away with the water bolt. Our setup is insanely powerful already, so I can quickly get the eye down to phase 2, and here I just start focusing all my attacks at the ground so that I can fill the arena with damaging bolts, and eventually I manage to take down the Eye of Cthulhu. I go ahead and take care of a few more while it's still night and immediately head over to the corruption to blow up some shadow orbs and summon the Eater of Worlds. The Eater is basically a joke with the water bolt's infinite piercing, and with a barrage of water bouncing around, we very quickly take down the second boss. Next up, I wanted the Goblin Tinkerer, so I buy the Goblin Battle Stand and start the Goblin fight with the Goblin Army Goblin. This is finally an easy fight for once with our piercing weapon, and we can just run alongside our massive walls of water bolts and take down all of the goblins like it's nothing. Goblin. After the fight, I build a house in the jungle and buy the pylon before heading down into the caves where I actually managed to find the Goblin Tinkerer sitting on the rails. Freeing him, I buy the rocket boots and the workshop, quickly making the Spectre boots, mana regen band, and magic cuffs before popping a gravitation potion and finding the shiny red balloon and lucky horseshoe so I can finish up the upgrade session with the white horseshoe balloon. With all the equipment we could ever need, I think it's time we go over to the dungeon and build a nice arena. I make sure to hollow out a better path in the tree and go to summon Mr. Skeletron, flying up fairly smoothly and starting the fight once we make it to our arena. This fight isn't too bad, especially with the tree next to us bouncing our water bolts back. We use that to our advantage, taking out both of the hands, and when it's just Skeletron's head, I focus my fire directly towards him, especially while he's dashing, and we easily take out the crusty old man, opening up the dungeon. We really only need one item from here, so we quickly go and grab the Cobalt Shield before heading down to Hell with our final setup. I throw in the Voodoo Doll and start the fight with the Wall of Flesh. The Water Bolt is crazy in this fight, and we do manage to make a big dent in the wall's health using as many ricochets as possible, but our lack of health and epic gaming skill ends up in us losing the fight with about 2k health left on the big guy. I'm taking no chances on our second attempt, and I build a massive stone walkway that we can use to make the Water Bolt even crazier. With the walkway finished, I throw in our second Voodoo Doll, and the strategy seems to be working, using the walkway to try and hit the wall multiple times, but again, that lack of defense ends up in us dying with less than 800 health left on the boss. Now for the third attempt, I'm really taking no chances, expanding our walkway and adding another one above us so I can build a wall of damage. We throw in the third Voodoo Doll. This time I try and keep my distance while aiming at the ground and hoping the bolts just shred the wall apart. It works decently well in keeping our HP high, but the damage ended up a little disappointing. This fight lasts the longest out of all the attempts, but we do manage to take out the wall with just a sliver of HP left, and we can finally move into hard mode. We end up super lucky here because I immediately find the wizard while trying to deal with the underground Crimson, and I was worried he might die before I could free him, so I just go and dive in, tanking some damage, freeing him before it's too late. We are in need of a major weapon upgrade for hard mode, so the first thing I focus on is grinding tons of Ichor and Souls of Night, so that we can go up and craft our first hard mode weapon, the Golden Shower. Ugh. Gross names aside, we head over to the corruption and start smashing up demon altars, filling our world with all 6 of the hard mode ores. I forgot to make a molten pickaxe though, so I go mine some hellstone and quickly craft the tool before going down and mining a whole dwarf load of palladium, cobalt, orichalcum, titanium, and adamantite. I also grab some crystals while mining so that I can go and craft another hard mode book, the Crystal Storm. We make the full titanium armor set, and the next night I buy the crystal ball from the wizard and prepare to fight the destroyer with our new gear. I was pretty confident here because the golden shower pierces and deals a nice amount of damage, but you guys might notice I have forgotten something very important. I don't have wings. So that lack of mobility ends up in me taking a nasty blow from the destroyer's head and ultimately leads to a failed attempt. Realizing my mistake, I summon a blizzard, trapping this ice golem in a hole where he very graciously drops us an ice feather on the first try. After crafting the frozen wings, I head down to the Hallow to get some souls of light, this time crafting ourselves a mechanical skull and pondering the orb for good luck before summoning Skeletron. This is why the Golden Shower is easily the best hard mode spellbook in my opinion, because I can just focus all of my attention on a Skeletron's head, and because it's a big stream of gold, I can keep consistent direct damage to the boss while also being able to take out most of his hands before the end of the fight. And even though the fight goes on a little bit long, we manage to very easily take down our first mech boss. The following day, I really wanted to get my sorcerer emblem, so I go and dig down by the ocean, and by dig, I mean blow up everything, including myself. But hey, we find the shimmer and I throw our stuff in, grabbing the sorcerer emblem and a vital crystal. Now that we have a nice damage buff, I summon the twins and start focusing on spasmatism as always. The fight isn't too bad, and we quickly get spasmatism down to his second phase, where he almost manages to catch us slipping underneath my house, hitting us with a blast of fire. But it's okay, we end up taking him down, and the rest of the fight is a breeze as we finish off Ret Nicer, grabbing our second mech boss victory. In the same night, I play the crystal drums and summon the destroyer to get my revenge. This time I make sure to play way better with our improved mobility, and even though he still does a ton of damage, by the end of the fight we end up dragging him to the sky, firing a nice golden stream straight onto With all the mech bosses beaten, I go ahead and craft the full hallowed armor set and head down to our glowing mushroom biome. This is for a very specific reason. My NPC, the knight, actually sells us truffle worms while his house is in one of these biomes. With that in mind, I make a giant set of platforms at the ocean, replacing our old Skeletron arena, and head back down to buy up a nice chunk of worms. We immediately go over to our new arena and throw our line in the water, summoning up Mr. Duke Fishron. I have a lot of experience with this fight thanks to my bows only playthrough, and that makes a good majority of this fight a breeze. The first phase gives us no problems besides a couple of hits here and there, and using the golden shower we get Fishron to phase 2, where once again all of that practice is coming in handy as we blast through second phase starting the third. This is where I slip up, however. I wasn't focusing and immediately get lost in his pattern, and it ends up in us losing the first attempt. Straight into the next fight, we once again blast through the first phase and similarly blast through the second. See, look at this cool clip of me dashing into a Sharknado to avoid some damage. Now that we're in the third phase, I'm starting to notice just how little damage we actually deal, but I'm keeping my mind on the fish and we magically dodge all of his attacks, finishing the fight and obtaining the Razor Blade Typhoon on the first try. Love to see that. With a massive boost in power, we head over to the jungle, and you already know I gotta start blowing that bitch up, clearing out a massive area, blocking it off, and building an arena. We start the fight with Plantera, and once she's in the arena, it's basically game over already. We shred through her first phase. Things do get a little scary in her second phase thanks to the walls in the arena, but we manage to make it out fine, finishing off Plantera and instantly heading towards the jungle temple. I make sure to clear out all of the traps and spikes before going to the altar and summoning the game's hardest boss. I actually end up using the golden shower for most of the first phase to deal a little extra damage to all 3 of Golem's parts, but once we're in phase 2, I switch over to the Razor Blade Typhoon and we just absolutely tear the man apart. Probably one of the quickest Golem kills we've had so far, and after that I'm ready to wrap up this playthrough and head over to the dungeon to summon the Lunatic Cultist. Fight starts off fine. We don't have any of the usual infinite flight mounts for this fight, so I just try to dodge as many attacks as I can, making sure to hit the right clones, and we finish off the fight with ease, summoning up the pillars. First one down is the Stardust Pillar. Using the cells to easily take down his shield, we can just swoop in and a couple of Typhoons has it gone. Next is the Solar Pillar right beside our house. This one isn't the worst. We die a couple of times thanks to our low defense, but once its shield is down, it's sitting all alone in the trees. Next is the Vortex pillar, going down with ease as always, and before we finish off the last pillar, we build a long arena and a house for the nurse to stay in. We go ahead and take down the Nebula pillar and wait at our arena, buffs in hand as impending doom approaches. Once the Moonlord spawns, I'm hit with the realization that the Razorblade Typhoon is actually kind of bad for this fight. It's incredibly hard to focus on a single eye, and as you can see, I have one eye out already while another is low, and the middle has hardly been touched at all. This extra bit of difficulty ends up in us getting taken out by his big laser and failing the fight for the first time in a while. I decided I want a bit of extra damage, so I head down to the dungeon to farm up a ton of ectoplasm, crafting the full Spectre armor set and using a sigil to summon the Moonlord for a second attempt. This attempt is an absolute mess. We take so much early damage and just end up dead before any of the eyes are even at half HP. Getting a little tired of the Moonlord shit, I go and take down a few Fishrons until we get his wings, and I reforge everything to menacing and warding. This next attempt, I decided to use the strategy of flying in a long line, focusing on both of the hands until they are low, which was working pretty well, but when I went to heal with my nurse, she'd actually fallen out of the house and I ended up dead before I could get to her and actually heal. Unfortunate, but we totally have it on this next attempt, or not, but it's okay because our 5th attempt, I end up mastering this strategy and I just make sure to keep my distance on all the eyes until eventually the core opens up and I do the exact same thing again. Keeping the Moonlord as far as possible while the Razorblade Typhoon does its thing, we finally manage to take out the Moonlord, and as the screen flashes white, we have beaten Terraria using spellbooks only. Super fun playthrough and decently challenging considering the lack of spellbooks in the game. I definitely want to finish up this set of playthroughs with a just as hard one, so next time we actually have whips only. And then I think I'm going to experiment with either a modded playthrough or I'm going to experiment with some Dark Souls. We'll see. So keep in mind after that, but next is whips only for sure. And with that, I want to thank you guys all for watching. Please comment down below what you thought, and I'll see you all when whips only comes out. Love you guys. Bye.